Probably one of my favorite aspects of game design is teaching the player how to play the game by, well, playing the game. It's a nuance that's pretty hard to notice if you don't pay a whole lot of attention to it. I personally hate tutorials, especially long-winded ones that take forever to explain relatively simple stuff. I'm looking at you, other M. As sad as it sounds, teaching through gameplay really seems like a trend that's starting to fade out. There's still games that employ this like Shovel Knight or Axiom Verge, but a lot of the time the game will simply throw at you a tutorial that could last for several minutes. In some games this is justified, like Xenoblade Chronicles, which has a ton of complicated mechanics, some of which are pretty much impossible to figure out on your own. But geez, do I really need a pop-up on screen telling me how to move? I guess this is a result of games becoming more mainstream and more casual, quote-unquote, in a sense, but I don't think a single person could pick up Skyrim and not even be able to figure out how to walk within 30 seconds. It gets kinda ridiculous. The beautiful thing about older games is that they forced you to figure out how to play the game, possibly because designers back in the day didn't really know how to teach the player otherwise, or maybe it was just because of hardware limitations. It's hard to say. But in older games, you're just thrown in and expected to figure things out on your own. That's where Mega Man comes in. Mega Man as a series is the epitome of the concept of teaching through gameplay. The first one in particular is designed in such a way that makes it so you can figure something out in a level before you even get to it. If you don't know how Mega Man works, I'll explain the classic series to you, which works a bit differently from the Mega Man X series that comes later. When you first start the game, you're presented with a group of levels you can choose from in any order you'd like. Each level has a boss at the end of it, which gives you a new weapon to use once you defeat it. Certain bosses are weak to certain weapons, so because of this, people over time have figured out specific orders to complete the levels in order to defeat the bosses more easily. Once you complete all the normal levels, the final one, Dr. Wily's stage, will open. The Dr. Wily stage is split up into several separate levels, which eventually lead up to a gauntlet where you have to fight all the bosses again in succession, and then the final fight with Dr. Wily. Each stage revolves around one or two central gimmicks that get more and more advanced as the stage progresses. For example, in the Cutman stage, you come up to a point early in the level where there's these laser shooting things called beaks that shoot in a specific pattern. The first one can't hit you because of how it's placed. The second one, though, is placed directly across from a ladder. You can predict how this one will shoot because you just saw the harmless first one shoot, so you can time your ladder climb properly to avoid getting hit. There's a bunch of other examples of this, of course, but I figured since Cutman stage is the first level your cursor is over when you start up the game, new players to the series would naturally be inclined to go to that level first. But this is where Mega Man's genius begins to show. As balls hard as the game is, it's at least fair in its challenge, for the most part. There are definitely some parts of the game that, in my opinion, are absolutely ridiculous and unfair, but we'll get to that later. So how does this affect Mega Man's design? Well, because the game is centered around challenging platforming that you have to learn on your own, the game takes the liberty of getting pretty damn difficult as time goes on. If we use the example with the Beaks and Cutman stage again, we can see that immediately after encountering the Beaks for the first time, you'll be presented with a group of 3 of them. They all fire in the same fashion as the first 2 that you saw, and you're again not in their line of fire when you first get to that screen. Using what you learned from the first 2 Beaks you saw, you'll be able to formulate a plan to get through the screen and take as little damage as possible. Another example of this is in Gutsman stage. Yes, I know basically everyone knows about this already because of Egoraptor's Sequelitis videos, so I'll just go over this quickly. See those platforms? Yeah. See how you're safely able to observe the next platform below you and how it flips over when it reaches a gap in the track? Yeah. It's pretty self-explanatory from there. It's simple, it's effective, and most importantly, it works. Some of these gimmicks even carry over into later levels. The concept of projectile shooting in a fixed pattern from an object is used again in the Bomb Man stage. All these different things compound on each other to form a really cohesive, united design. You use everything you learn in previous levels and apply it again and again, which helps you understand the game better. It's an amazing concept that feels incredibly rewarding once you master a certain obstacle in the game. There are some parts of the game that are just straight up frustrating, like, well, the entire Iceman stage, but other than that, Mega Man does a great job of teaching the player how to play the game.